All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm here to do something a little bit different this week. First of all, I'm back.
You're back.
Briefly.
It's my pod bay. You're
Briefly.
back with me.
Yep. It's the OG team.
All I kept playing on repeat was, whatever I did, whatever I said, I didn't mean
I realised
it.
I'm a little bit like, and this will mean nothing to our international listeners,
Yeah.
but I'm a little bit like Lorraine Kelly.
Right. Oh, you're hardly
I'm
ever.
very handsome from my own project.
The thing is, I don't watch it enough to know that, but I've heard it enough.
No, I don't watch it at all, but I know
Why
that
is she
she's
never on her show?
I don't know. Maybe she's also doing trips.
Maybe.
But I've got something in front of me for our viewers can see.
Yeah. It's not.
As long as I've hit record anyway.
I told you, you shouldn't have done that. Got it out on camera.
No, I know, but all I'm going to say is I think it could be a little bit chaotic. I often do when I get it out.
Yeah.
But
could be over quite quick.
Bumpy ride.
Jake's got the soundboard in front of
boy.
him.
Yeah, boy.
I thought it was time to trust him. I feel like just from before we even hit record, I regretted that decision.
Oh God, yeah. And do you know, the thing is, I'll probably get bored with it within the first
yeah. I
5
mean,
minutes.
eventually.
So I mean, I forgot this.
One of my biggest regrets was that I didn't take that off, and Angela Bassett did the thing.
Yeah, well, that's what. Okay, so right, so just before we started
You're
recording,
pressing so many buttons, it's worrying me. There's not that many buttons to press.
right before we started recording, I did see this particular button, and I did say this might make a revival because it was a couple of years ago now. And for those that don't remember, Angela Bassett was embroiled in a scandal. Well, I'm not going to tell you what she did. I'll just let.
What did she do? I don't know. I'm ashamed of myself. I actually fell for that. That wasn't a bit.
I thought it was a bit, but I respect the
there
honesty.
was a controversy in my head. I was like, I remember discussing her at the time, but I don't remember there being a controversy.
She did that thing.
That was it. She did nothing except look bewildered.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, look, I'll probably get bored with it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But you've gifted me this.
The thing is, because it's like normally there, like sort of to my left, and the mic's in the way, most of the time I sort of forget it's there.
Yeah, just when you need it.
So to be honest with you, it might as well be over there with you and get a bit of use. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
It's been a while. Also, I need to put my hands up. I did another Big Daddy Big Classic on air last week. I messed up.
Oh, sorry. When you say you messed up, what you mean is... Well, do you know what? I literally had it as well.
Forgive me.
Yeah, I need to ask the listeners and my dear sister and last week's guest co-host. I owe them an apology.
Forgive me.
Somehow, I recorded the episode in slow motion. So it meant it only actually recorded a quarter of it because it was taking up 4 times the space.
I bet it looked badass though. Boring as shit.
No,
It was
weirdly,
slow motion.
It played in normal speed. But yeah,
It's just super intense frame rate.
Just absolutely fucked it up. And so if Jake can press the button for me one last time.
Sure, of course.
Forgive me.
Yeah. So yeah.
Understandable. And to the haters.
Get stuffed.
Yeah, to anyone who doesn't accept the apology.
What's this one?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
It sort of works, doesn't it?
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their arse and done nothing? No signs of that?
That actually fits. Yeah, you're right. That does fit.
I like
I
it.
no idea that that's what I was pushing, but it does fit. Because, you know, no
it's
one
hard
ever
to
does.
believe that. Like, that's probably a good year ago now that happened.
But British politics moves. I mean, politics in general, but British politics moves
it feels like
so
the world
fast.
in general moves so fast. Like, I wasn't that engaged in the last week in like anything. And then I open up Twitter when I haven't been on it for several days, and it's just so much.
Yeah. There's been a lot to discuss.
Yeah. Like, all of a sudden, Ruud van Nistelrooy's the Leicester manager. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and what's the other one? Frank Lampard's at Coventry.
Yeah, but that's been kicking around for a couple of weeks.
I don't know why they got rid of Mark Robbins.
No, I mean,
Like, they literally said in their statement, look, he's achieved more than he should have with what we gave him.
Yeah.
In many ways, they might as well have just said he was making us look bad. Like,
yeah.
Eventually we were going to get the blame for it, so
And
he
the
had to
thing
go.
is, he's not
welcoming
he
Frank
wasn't doing
Lampard.
That bad.
He's doing great. Like, he was
Yeah.
literally Didn't they make was it a penalty shootout in the
Yeah, that's what they missed out on getting to the Prem.
And
they made this season they had a dip.
They made a cup semi-final last year or the year before.
Yeah, and they should have probably got to the final.
He did overachieve with that squad.
Yeah,
with that budget.
I mean,
although obviously he had Gyökeres, who has now gone on to immense things at Sporting.
Yeah, I still don't know. Right, I know this sounds ridiculous, but when that happens, I don't know. Is that just because he's playing in Portugal?
Yeah,
like I know he was doing all right for Coventry, but he wasn't that.
I don't know if you remember saying, but I remember saying to you and Ash, I wouldn't be upset if Palace signed him.
Yeah,
when he was doing bits at Coventry, I was like, that would be a
good.
He looked
like
Palace
a
signing.
decent player then, but he wasn't that. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't.
And, what we're saying is the Portuguese league easier than the Championship?
But he's also doing it in the Champions League, so that sort of defeats that argument a little bit. But can he do it on a cold, wet night? I mean, he probably did. Actually,
he did do it on
Coventry.
a cold, wet night.
So look, yeah, fair enough. He's obviously a good player, and I was just wrong.
Yeah,
but I'm feeling vindicated about Fraudiola, as I think he should now be known,
because he's lost like 5 in a row and made fun of self-harm.
That was a bit weird, wasn't it?
It was very weird. I understand why he did it.
I mean,
it was just an offhanded comment, and you don't think about it.
I think he actually does have quite an unhealthy mental health.
Like his response to situations does not look great on camera, does it?
No, but like I remember ages ago. Do you remember when the documentary came out and they did the fly on the wall? What was it called?
All or Nothing. Amazon Prime things.
All or Nothing. And he has a member of his coaching team whose job it is just to sit and listen to Pep scream, and rant and be upset about stuff, because otherwise he would be unbearable to. But
when you think about it, that's what I get paid for on the pod. To sit and listen to you scream.
Not true. I don't scream. Unless you start saying doors are, they're not on when they're closed.
All I'm saying is the door's purpose is to be.
Do you know what I love? Like, every time it gets brought up, and I remember saying to Alex before the pod, like, don't worry, I have no intention of bringing it up. And then you brought it up, and we ended up spending 25 minutes talking about it. We somehow got onto chandeliers.
Yeah, I don't know where the chandeliers came from.
It was Alex. Alex brought him into it. And then
I listened to it.
And he was right about chandeliers. I was wrong. But I still don't. At the end of it, I was like, how did we get here? And
ignore me. I'm just looking.
You're just looking
I'm just keeping myself.
Opportune moment.
Just keeping myself. What I will say, obviously, that thing with the chandelier.
I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news.
That's our job.
Anyway,
we can just move on. What's this? Oh yeah,
that's Rippers.
We don't. I would like to.
We did do a Rippers for John Prescott last week.
Okay, good, because John Prescott, I think, does deserve a Rippers.
Is there anyone else that's died?
Other than did we cover Quincy Jones?
Was he a poet?
No, he's the music producer, and then the TV producer produced Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as well, and he's produced like hits for Michael Jackson.
When
he
did
used to
pass away?
A few weeks ago now.
You might have done it. Did someone else die at the same time? And you did like you occasionally do like additional Rippers, like
don't know. But he reckons he knows who killed JFK. He reckons he knows Hillary Clinton's secrets.
I mean, wasn't it the CIA that killed?
And he literally said
JFK?
something like, "Was it Brando?" Where he's interviewed and he's like, "Oh, that dude, that dude liked everything. I've seen him fuck this guy, that guy," and the interview's like, Brando fuck dudes, and he's like, yeah. You like Brazilian music, and it's like just a perfect little like.
I think that is actually true though. I think Marlon Brando was quite famously bisexual,
but it was just
it was like one of those on the down low famous things. Do you know what I mean?
But it was just his absolute switch to be like, do you like Brazilian music?
Look, maybe he's worried about the CIA coming after him.
So can I give Quincy Jones a because he's genuinely properly influential in the music world. Like he's been properly successful.
No, fair play.
There's been a number of hits that you'll have. He produced a bunch of Michael Jackson records, for sure. But we agree the music is good.
I know the music's outstanding.
The music's good, and that was Quincy's department.
Yeah.
So we go.
No, look, I hold on to House of Cards, so I'm not going to judge anyone else for their separation.
So Quincy Jones.
Rippers.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Hopefully he's up there with Michael.
Maybe not.
Probably down there.
Maybe different places. Different sections of the afterlife. Yeah. I think maybe reserved for them each.
I think there's certain sections they wouldn't let Michael. Do you know what I mean?
Playground.
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
All the places he
Orphanages.
should have been in this life.
Although, why would there be orphanages in heaven? That was not very well thought through on my part.
Well, maybe their parents were really bad and they didn't get to go to heaven, but the children did because they were innocent.
Because they were innocent children.
Yeah.
Well, children aren't always innocent, are we? Israel taught us that. A lot of them are terrorists and potential terrorists.
Well, they're right about the potential part.
Yeah, I mean, look.
If you keep killing their parents, they're probably quite likely to turn into terrorists.
But, on the flip side, you might as well just be like, look, we're going to save this one because he's a potential future superstar.
Do you know, I had a thought about
or
this
she.
Israel and Palestine thing earlier, and it was, I think part of the problem is, particularly with like the media coverage and people's, and when I say people, like people in power or positions of influence, and I mean more in this country than anything, to like condemn what Israel are doing, is because since 9/11, Muslims have been vilified quite widely since then, and like really badly, and they've been the big evil in general since then.
Do you know, I was watching... Okay.
And I think that was done to then justify what we were doing in the Middle East, which was slaughtering, exploiting.
You dehumanise them straight off the bat.
Since the beginning of time, that's what we've done. So if we now suddenly go, well, look, the Muslims are actually the victims now and they're not evil terrorists, then...
It's also very hard
to... You can't justify what's going on over there.
Because we still consider, in the West, someone like Iran to be an enemy.
Yeah.
So we're like, these Muslims are good. Those Muslims are bad.
But
it's hard to differentiate
Iran
between us.
Iran decided, like we decided and the US decided, to have nuclear weapons. Do you know what I mean? And it's because of that we don't like it.
Yeah, and also, to be fair to Iran, I mean, I'm not in any way supporting Iran.
I do
believe
enough
there's
about Iran.
Massive problems with Iran, and they're seeing their own sort of like cultural uprising and revolution at the moment.
Yeah.
With terms to the what are they called? The
Hezbollah?
No, the modesty police.
Oh, okay.
And women protesting across the country, and it's causing quite a stir. But to their defence, they looked at America and us and were like, the fuck are you doing pissing around in this part of the world?
Yeah.
You don't belong here.
Which they're quite right.
And in their defence, that's a fair...
Yeah. But for some reason, well, not for some reason, for very obvious reasons, for resources and money, we decide we can do whatever the fuck we like.
Mm.
So, yeah.
But, yeah, like I said, we're not going to... Well, haven't said anything. We're not going to dwell, I don't think, on the Israel-Palestine situation. They've just announced a ceasefire with Lebanon, which shows that they can engage in a ceasefire.
Yeah.
After targeting
they obviously
civilian blocks
on Lebanon's land. They obviously haven't got anything they want.
Lebanon, Beirut's one of the oldest cities in the world.
Yeah.
By the way, like it's packed with history.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's part of the
West. So
West's...
is the Middle East in general.
Yeah, I think that's part of the West's vilification of Muslims in the Middle East is because even the West is built on Christianity, or has been built on for the last sort of like 1,000 years or so on Christianity. And yet most of the New Testament, all the Jesus-y stuff and whatever, that happened in the Middle East.
Yeah,
we go on about it. Like, there's a reason Israel is where it is, because a lot of the stuff...
Well, and they all come from originally the same source material, don't they? Which is why they're the Abrahamic faiths.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's like... yeah, I don't know. So the idea that we vilify them and have managed to completely whitewash them out of existence. Would you like to start with something fun or not fun?
Fun. Let's go fun. We just talked about something quite sad.
Do you want something politically fun or sporting fun?
Dealer's choice.
Okay. Is Swindon's training ground haunted?
Right.
It is, according to Ian Holloway.
Okay. Is that where he's at the moment?
He's joined Swindon.
Okay. Where are they? In League Two?
Yeah, in his first game. Oh, I better check that, actually. You better talk for some minutes.
I just remember watching Ian Holloway try his absolute hardest to ruin the good work Dougie Freedman had done in the Championship. Like, I remember us just scraping the playoffs. And like, I remember Doc Brown. Was it Doc Brown that was like, he's great to watch at another club, but not great to have at your own?
Yeah, they're third bottom.
Right.
So when he took over, he went and he was just going to go and watch the first game, but he ended up going down and communicating with the sidelines and saying, put him here, put him there, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's come out and in the last couple of weeks and said that he thinks that the reason that their form is as poor as it is because the training ground's haunted. Now, I believe, and it does happen only really in the EFL and the non-leagues.
Yeah.
I believe we need more of this utter nonsense.
Why?
Because it's good fun. Do you remember when they had at Anfield, they had him trying to bless the goal,
Holloway, do you know what I mean?
and trying to like get rid of they had the shaman in at Anfield trying to get rid of the trying to get rid of the curse and whatever else. I think football needs more of that. It's good fun.
Well, look, I'm a superstitious person.
So do you think, because you're the most likely of us to believe it, do you think it is haunted?
Probably not, to be honest.
Not many ghosts in Swindon, you don't think?
Well, I don't know. Look, I've never been there. I haven't felt the energy. I don't know the vibe.
I've felt the energy.
Have you? Have
draining.
You been to Swindon away?
Draining. Grey it is.
Yeah.
I've never done Swindon.
You're just talking about Swindon in general?
I've just been through Swindon.
And that was the vibe you got?
That was the vibe. There was definitely...
I haven't been, like I said, I've not been there. I haven't felt the energy.
Well, I don't know that, because look,
I don't know if I want football just filled with nonsense, though.
It's a long-standing tradition.
Because then it makes, like, do you remember the chicken on the pitch at Blackburn? Do you know what I mean? When Venky's bought the club.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, but it's occasional. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
it's
no, look.
The volleyball, was it a volleyball or a beach ball at Sunderland?
A beach ball, yeah. I just think with all the, because it filters down, and even the like EFL clubs now are like properly into their data analytics and their sports sciences and their nutritionists and stuff and this, and you just want Holloway. I don't want them in there going, right, okay, you've run 3Ks, we need to get you up, you've got this, and we're going to do this training regime on this diet.
There's ghosts after you run fast.
There's ghosts. Ian Holloway, why are we not losing? Well, we've analysed the footage and we've realised that we're running less, we're getting less coverage in that final third on the left-hand side, and we really need to be swapping them over and all this. And I just want someone to go, why aren't you doing very well? Haunted training ground.
The thing is, again, I think it's what I was just saying about Ian Holloway, the Doc Brown thing. It's like, it's great when it's not your club.
100%.
But if when he was at Palace in the Premier League,
and
if he'd have gone, well, I think the training ground's haunted, you'd have been like, get the fuck out of the club. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't want ghosts at the club.
No, but you'd have wanted Ian Holloway out with him.
I don't know. If he saved us from the ghosts,
I
think there's room.
We'd have still got relegated, even if he'd have got rid of the ghosts. Maybe he's haunted.
I mean, what would you... I'd feel quite betrayed. What would you do?
Maybe it was haunted in Blackpool because it went well for him there. And then since leaving,
then it's not.
So maybe they're haunting him as a punishment for leaving.
Can ghosts travel?
Why not?
No, but like, okay.
Energy can travel.
Complete segue.
Yeah.
Complete side note.
Yeah. I'm going to get text from Lil about whatever this is, I'm sure.
But you never get, like, ghosts typically they're confined to like one property, not even one town.
Are they though? Or are we just taking people's words for it?
This is the question. I've had very limited ghost interactions in my life.
Well, to be honest, so have I. Do you know what I mean?
Who should we call? If only there was a group that was so easily...
there is a YouTube group we could call. Isn't it a group of women now?
I bet it is.
Which I'm absolutely not.
Bloody woke.
Well, they literally
Bloody woke.
No, they did another men's one afterwards, didn't they?
Yeah, they've done two now.
Because the women's one didn't do well.
Yeah, they've done two.
Do you think that is because, this is a random tangent, that was because it was a film starring women, or because it was just a shit film?
I think it was both.
Yeah.
Like, I think if it had been... I don't think it would have done well if it had been a good film. But the fact that it wasn't a good film didn't help it.
No.
What do you think?
I mean, I didn't watch it, so I can't comment on whether
I've seen it since.
But I heard nothing good about it.
It's not great.
But yeah, I think definitely the fact it's all women...
But like,
I mean, that doesn't bother
I'll
me
be honest,
particularly, and I was never a big Ghostbusters person when I was younger, that's why I didn't watch it.
I am a Ghostbusters fan. The second Ghostbusters is shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to throw it out there. It's not a good film.
Yeah. I don't really remember much about them. I just remember the Michelin Man.
Stay Puffed. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Is that what it is?
I
always thought it was the Michelin Man.
No, it's a marshmallow. It's the giant marshmallow man.
That's how well I remember
Understandable.
it. But yeah.
But in Ghostbusters, the ghosts are portrayed as being free roaming around the city.
I think personally, if you're asking me, I reckon they travel, yeah. Yeah.
But how do they travel? Do you think they just get in the car with you, or because like with
I
Ian
think they're
Holloway,
just floating around and shit. Do you know what I mean?
did you float along?
Yeah. I mean, if you're dead, why would you walk?
It's a long way though. Like
No, but if you're just floating, it don't matter,
Blackpool
does
to
it?
Swindon.
You've got plenty of time when you're dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
You've got eternity.
and you know what? You're right. You're not going to rush to Swindon. So look, it's been a long-standing tradition that we take.
If anything, places like Benidorm should be really haunted.
Oh, just with like underdressed,
Like
just ghosts in
old
speedos. You
people.
never see ghosts in speedos.
Yeah. I mean, the beach would even be even more packed.
And how would you see? Because ghosts have like they're well known for having a particular sort of see-through opaque hue.
Yeah.
It's usually either a kind of a white or a green or a blue. How would you see someone who's just like beet red? Like
Orange.
Alan Brazil. What would Alan Brazil look like as a
He would
ghost?
look like Alan Brazil. Do you know what I mean? He just look red as a tomato as he normally does.
Absolutely fair.
He looks like he's. Any time I see an image of him, and it could just be because they're memeing the reddest part of whatever that moment is, but he looks like he's just ready to pop. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just any moment the heart's going to go.
Yeah, he does look like I don't know, like a
He's
personified
not
kebab or
knocking on
something.
heaven's door. Do you know what I mean?
He's not a well man.
No.
Just how would you know if he was angry?
By the tone of his voice, I'd imagine.
He's got
Or
one-
how erect
yeah.
he was.
How erect. Check his nipples, Sarge.
Why is that where you would check?
I'm
Is
not
that the
going.
first
I'm not
thing that
going
gets
further
hard
down.
when you get
I am
aroused,
not
is
going
it?
further down.
No, but I'm
Look,
not
if
saying
the-
touch it. You
if
can
the-
see.
If the nipples prove inconclusive,
What if he's wearing a thick jumper?
then we'll have to go further on.
What if he's wearing a thick jumper?
But I will supervise. I will not.
Well, look, I know you've already said you wouldn't suck snake venom out of my penis, so
Sorry, bro. Gotta die. I only do that shit for fun. I don't do it for health reasons.
that's not nice. Only on a stag do.
I just
I just gotta hope I get bit on the dick
if you get
at
bit
a
on the
stag
stag
do.
do,
Mate,
different
if that
game.
happens on my stag do, something's gone horribly wrong.
or horribly right, I think someone planned it.
They would have had to.
You don't know where we're having your stag do.
You're going to dress me as a snake now, aren't you?
Or a penis.
Do you know what? I think I'd oddly be more comfortable with being dressed as a penis.
Why?
It's more manly.
I respect it. Or, in fact,
I did hear on a podcast the other day where they were debating whether one of them came out with there's nothing straighter than bumming a man with confidence. It was just an interesting debate to hear men have.
I think we should have it one day.
Because one of them was just like, there's nothing straighter.
Like nothing, you couldn't think of one thing.
No. Yeah. Anyway.
So you
sorry.
don't think Swindon's haunted?
I don't think it's
You just think
haunted.
Ian Holloway's
Shit, that's where
up
we
to his old
started.
shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think he probably just wants attention. It must get lonely down in League Two.
Down in Swindon.
I mean, look, I really like him. Anytime I've seen him interviewed, any podcast I've seen him on, he seems like a really nice bloke. Seems to adore his two daughters, who I believe are both deaf, and he's a big advocate for deaf people. So I think he's a good bloke, but he's also an absolute nut job.
Yeah. He's got a proper touch of the West Countries about him.
Yeah, he's like the sort of even more poor man's version of like Neil Warnock. Do you know what I mean? But a bit nuttier.
Yeah, he's a more eccentric Warnock.
Yeah.
Warnock's a bit more London.
Yeah,
Like you'd see a Warnock character in a London pub.
yeah.
Bit of banter, get into him,
They
go
went
on.
to the same coaching school. Do you know what I mean?
But Holloway kind of drifted out to the West Coast, where not that much happens.
No.
There's just some sheep and some
And
cows
some haunted training
and
grounds.
some haunted training grounds. You know, you
Yeah.
mind start seeing things.
I'm more into the idea of him being haunted than Swindon.
Ian, you might be haunted, my man.
Yeah, I'd look into that.
Ollie, could be you.
Right. What was the political fun?
Well,
story?
I'm going to use this to bring
Oh.
it back a little bit, because you remember we did a segment a couple of years ago, an ongoing segment. So I'm going to bring it back a
Was
little
it
bit.
Nadine Watch? It wasn't even a couple of years ago. It was before the general election.
Nadine Watch, because she's back
Oh god.
in an interview.
Let me guess. She's still a fan of Boris Johnson.
Well, Boris doesn't come up in this interview.
Fucking hell.
In fact, he did come up in the interview. Actually, that's a
Of
lie.
course he did.
And she defended him.
Of course he did.
But the
She's still in
interview
love.
she gave, I think it was with Victoria Derbyshire. I can't remember, but I did sit and watch it in its entirety because I was like, this is bonkers. I've got to get the context of this. So she's now coming out and saying that there is, she has seen an MP naked in a Westminster office.
Right. Okay.
She's walked in on a naked MP while another naked MP sat on the windowsill.
Okay.
And she believes that they were both part of a WhatsApp group called RN, which stands for Right Now, which is to organise gay hookups in Westminster.
Okay.
And her thing was, this is a workplace. This is... And Victoria Derbyshire went, do you think Boris Johnson ever had sex at work? She was like, no, I don't actually. And it was
I just sucked him off.
Yeah. But the woman was like, what's the big deal about two consenting adults having sex? She's like, these are straight, married. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't think they're that straight. I don't know. Obviously, we've just discussed that there's nothing straight
They're
than
at least
bumming another man.
bisexual.
So one of them is straight. In fact, one of them is hyper straight.
Yeah.
But the other one, a little bit gay.
Yeah.
Definitely on the queer spectrum.
Yeah.
So what did you think? And also then there was questions.
First thing I thought was, well, that absolutely happened. I can
for
absolutely
sure.
believe that happened.
For sure.
We know. I mean, like, look, MPs are human beings.
And just to be clear, by the way.
Like, who hasn't scrolled on porn? What?
No, look what happens. If you type in tractors, right, that story's never going away as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the all-time greats. Do you know what that's up there with for me with? I was just looking for tractors, and I ended up on Pornhub or whatever I wound up on. Right?
Have you never gone surfing on the internet and happened upon porn, Jake?
Many times, but my mind just jumps.
It's the ADHD.
Yeah, you start on Paw Patrol before you know it.
Paw
Paw
Patrol. That's a rogue shout.
But it's up there with Wayne Hennessy's World War II. You know, who were the Nazis?
See, what was it? What was the phrase though? It was something like "Can't wait to learn." About the Nazis.
But like for me, that is up there. Both of those.
You're trying to do the same salute he did.
that's I'll tell you where it is. It's up there. Both.
See, I thought it was over there.
I think no. Both of those are goated excuses.
Yeah.
As in, they're proper Hail Marys. I've got nothing left. There's no substantiating this. I'm just gonna throw.
Yeah.
Back to the ball. Balls out.
It wasn't me of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you were doing the Nazi salute, going the who? Sorry, there's a Second World War. Wow, this has come as a great shock. And also, obviously, you were caught looking
to
at
make my son Adolf.
you were caught looking at porn. No, I was googling tractors, and it just happened. Why were you Googling? You know, there's so many questions.
Look, if you Google
raised.
big busty bitches on tractors, don't be shocked by what you find.
You know, I understand them. So we've all been there. You've looked for ploughing in fields, and
Next thing you know, there's ploughing happening.
It happens because you think, no, because I don't want it to be that like overly complicated machine. You just want raw ploughing.
Do you remember that?
Raw.
Was it an MP years ago where he was an older guy, like fairly old, and he was in women's underwear
With the coke? Keith Vaz?
Was that his
Was
name?
it Keith Vaz?
Was he an MP or
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he in his office? I just haven't. Memory.
No, I think he might have been. I think it might have been at the prostitute's place.
I mean, the hilarious thing about I don't particularly have an issue with an MPs having a you know what,
Having a bit of fun.
having a bit of fun at work, as long as they're two consenting adults.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not.
Maybe at work.
Look, some serious stuff's going on in the Houses of Parliament, but at the same time, you know, I'm sort of okay with it.
It was back at Portcullis House.
I think that's better than when Downing Street, every surface within 20 metres of Boris Johnson's office had sources of coke off it. So, like, I'd rather the people were just having the occasional, like,
Knots on each other.
Hancock and grips in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as they're not having an affair, obviously. Unless they don't.
I think the
in which case
implication
it's
is that
fine.
the implication from Nadine Dorris is that they are having affairs. that these are married men.
But I wouldn't trust her on every. I believe it happened.
God no.
But I wouldn't necessarily trust her on the details.
There's a few questions. Why are you saying this now?
Yeah.
Because these are her own MPs. These are Conservative MPs she's talking about.
Right. Of course, it was Tory.
And she's saying, yeah, no, because you know what? The people who are most, it's an age-old story. The people who are most sort of like conservative, aka homophobic, tend to be the gayest.
Yeah. Just very closeted.
Like the amount of. The thing is with the Democrat,
and they're also the most likely to be disrespectful of Parliament. I mean,
yeah.
Jacob Rees-Mogg putting his feet up and falling asleep in the Houses of Parliament is a nice example.
Yeah, he's got a TV show coming out.
So my sister told me.
At Home with the Moggs or something.
Honestly.
I don't,
I'm not going to watch it.
God, no, you couldn't pay me.
The only thing I'd watch with him in
Unless
it is
anyone
Ali
out
G
there,
humiliating him.
I will throw this out there. If anyone wants to pay me a healthy amount, I am available to watch it.
I would love to be like a critic. Do you know what I mean? To just be paid to review stuff. I think that'd be sick.
I think I'd do the when Jay Rayner did the Salt Bays restaurant and he didn't actually review it. He just went to a kebab shop outside and went, I'm not going to pay £600 for a steak when I've just got a kebab for 20 quid.
But
and
I
it's
wouldn't
even
be
better.
paying for it. Someone would be paying for it.
No, and he said like it weren't my money, but either way, that's just save yourself the trouble and just go and get some street food.
I mean, I knew that before going there. I mean,
think that would be my approach to reviewing the Rees-Moggs. My whole review would be, I'm not wasting my time with this.
Yeah.
We all know what it's going to be. We're all going to be angry at the end.
They can never just take their ball and go home, can they?
Very
that
rarely.
side of things. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Nadine Dorries, whoever it is, like they can never just fuck off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But also what...
You've already, particularly like Boris Johnson's case, it's like, mate, you've filled your pockets, you've got everything you wanted except for staying in power. Just fuck off. Do you know what I mean?
I think, obviously, it's wrong to do it at work, but ultimately, these are consenting adults. Okay, if they're married, it's other issues, but that's the issue. Is the cheating? It's not the. But if they want to have a WhatsApp group where they just want to hook up with each other,
well, there's nothing actually wrong with that, is there?
Apart from the fact that it is in the office.
Does that bother you? The fact they're doing it in the Houses of Parliament?
No, not the fact that they're where they work. I think to do that at all at work. Look.
So you'd never have sex at work?
No. I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Right. So what are you saying?
To make it a regular act to have sex at work.
Oh, so the group chat was for workplace sex?
Yeah, it's right. It's literally right now. So it's like I message you. We're in this office.
No, but that could also be they're not at work and they put a message in that group and they go.
It's all at Portcullis House apparently that this goes on.
Right. Okay.
So I have a minor issue with that, if I'm honest.
Fair enough.
Which was the two of us, the ones I thought the roles could be reversed. I thought
no, I have more of an issue, but not even that much of an issue of the fact it's in the Houses of Parliament. But if you can get paid to get laid, and no money's changing hands, so it's not prostitution. Mama like that. Mama like that.
Well, I was going to say, first of all,
Mama like that. Mama like
beat you
that.
But then all of the because this is what I was going to go for.
Get stuff.
And they are.
Yeah, hit the D, bro. I mean, look,
Mama
it could.
like that. Mama like that.
It could be worse. They could be doing a Farage and spending most of their time in America.
I saw someone because obviously there's been this petition going around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, it's been debunked as being like a lot of.
Oh yeah, people were sending postcodes
bots
and the link to
foreign
all
people
over the world, weren't they?
Yeah, so it's not a legitimate. Like the numbers are not.
No, you can't
legit.
trust that it's actually 2 million people.
It's not 2 million people. At a push, I would say it's about 500,000 legitimate British real people. But I'm basing that on very little, by the way, but just on some of the evidence I've seen. And but like I saw someone trying to start a petition that was like, why don't we do a petition where unless, like Mr. Farage suggested at first when he said the House had told him that for his own security reasons he shouldn't, unless that happens, MPs have to set up a surgery in their constituency in the first 30 days of being in office. And I'm not entirely against something like that. I'm not necessarily saying that's the way, but I do think...
I think there should be
there
a
should be
minimum
something like
amount of
that.
surgeries or like time frames in place, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
otherwise there's literally nothing... Like, what are they actually doing then?
And I think there should be things in place, like acceptances in place, where you would say, obviously, if you're a member of the incumbent government and you hold a role, a ministerial role or a secretarial role or something to that effect, obviously Prime Minister,
Yeah.
then that exempts you from meeting your demands in your constituency.
Yeah.
And if you're leader of the opposition, then there's slightly lower... maybe the limit is a bit...
I think you'd have to match it, because the problem is, particularly then when, like, unless you then make an exception for campaigning, once campaign season, like if you set out a time frame between these months or time period before a campaign or before a general election, you don't have to do it at all. Do you know what I mean? That'd be.
But again, unless you're... So, like, for the incumbent government and the opposition, if you're a senior member, like a senior minister...
Yeah.
Then you're exempt from it. But even if you're a junior minister, there's still a certain amount of time you have to spend in your constituency, but it's reduced.
Yeah.
But if you're just a backbencher, if you're not part of the government or the opposition, there's a minimum amount of time.
It's unfair to say once a month an MP should have to meet with their constituents, have an open...
Even if it's like one day a month, but you should be spending time in that constituency.
Yeah.
And Farage trying to say he's the head of a political party. Well, he is, but it's a party that's got 5 MPs.
Well, it's a company technically, isn't it?
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? It'd be the same for Ed Davey. I would say Ed Davey should have a lower limit, but I would still expect him to...
He's not in opposition.
He's not in opposition. His party has got a considerable more MPs than...
Yeah.
They are the clear third party, but I would still expect that he has a certain criteria to meet to spending time in his constituency.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
The problem is, because he's been elected in a constituency, you have to assume that the people in that constituency know and are fine with who Nigel Farage is. Or at the very least, even if they are annoyed about the fact he's never there, they're just going to be happy that he's in, so they're not going to...
Yeah, and I think ultimately that probably is the case. But I think often with these people on that side of the political spectrum, and it happens I know I come across as this like far lefty, anti-right, whatever. But in my opinion, it happens far more on the far right than it happens anywhere else. Is that people are more easily duped into voting for things that they don't know what they're voting for.
Yeah.
So like voting for Farage, you would not necessarily, because given that he poses himself as this great patriot, you would be understandably annoyed. I know a lot of them think, oh, maybe he is just trying to help relations with the US, but annoyed that he spent so much of his time in America after voting for him.
I think the problem is, though, like, Trump's the president for those people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Like, if they were living in America, they'd be voting Trump. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like with Farage, people are just sort of happy either way. Like if they're ignorant to what his actual views are, then they're not informed. Therefore, they're still happy because they wanted him in. If they're actually informed on what his views are, they're okay with them, so they're happy that he's in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
we use this as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
To go to America.
Do it.
Me and you right now on a plane.
Nice. Are we flying business or?
Maybe, please.
You know how Big Daddy
fly
Big travels.
Economy. I only fly economy.
With the peasants.
got
You've got that Rockefeller wealth.
I got offered a trip the other day. This is completely random, but I got offered a trip that was because I've got Boxing Day as a day that I'm not available because I've got plans.
Yeah.
And
going to the partners' families?
No, going to Palace, but.
Oh, nice. Who we got?
Bournemouth.
Cool.
So I'm happy to tick that one off the list.
Anyway, sorry, you got offered a trip.
So I got offered a trip that starts on Boxing Day. And they were like, I know you've put Boxing Day is not available, but this would fit nicely between your trips. And I was like, well, I'll look at it. But then I was like, the more I thought about it, the more I was a bit like, you're taking the piss, really, because I've also got Christmas Day is unavailable and Christmas Eve is unavailable.
Yeah.
It's a trip that starts in Amsterdam at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So I would have had to have been there in Amsterdam
On
at 6 o'clock
Christmas.
on Boxing Day,
Yeah.
which means that it doesn't really start on Boxing Day because I'd have had
No,
to
it
have travelled
starts
the night
Christmas
before.
Day. Yeah.
And it's very difficult to travel on Christmas Day sometimes. So there's every chance I might have had to even travel.
And also, who wants to travel on Christmas Day? You want to be with your loved ones, and
So I was a bit like, it's not really one day you're asking me to eat into out of my unavailability. It's actually all of them
yeah.
in a way. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just thinking about me travelling. Poor person. So Donald Trump, the man who's going to tear down all the elites, has been filling his cabinet with pure billionaire elites.
Has he?
Yes.
I know it wasn't Vince McMahon's wife.
Yeah, Linda
ex-wife?
McMahon. She's setting up education.
Yeah.
I think. Obviously, Musk's new
Yes.
role. We've got to talk about Musk's new role.
I really
think.
want to put that to the side because I think that's a bigger subject. Continue with
Yeah,
the other
okay.
people.
But there was also this thing about Matt Gates.
I do like RFK Jr. though. You're not going to like me.
But
on
I
that.
like. He's in charge of health,
Exactly.
but he knows nothing.
I don't know. Have you ever actually
He-
listened to?
No. Listen, there's certain aspects of health that I think he does know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot
Well, in
of.
terms of running the healthcare
No,
system of an
and
entire
like,
country, no, he's
look,
not experienced in that.
He's perfect for me to host a podcast or a YouTube channel that's going to show you a few workouts, a few meal plans that's going to get you into better shape.
Yeah.
He's in good shape for his age. Let's
Oh,
put it that way.
100%. 100%.
But-
He's jacked.
He's very dismissive of a lot of medical conditions.
Okay.
He's very dismissive of a lot of medical causes.
Okay.
And he's one of those people that
I think
if there's a conspiracy going round,
the problem is when
he'll,
you're a conspiracy
historically,
person,
he'll eat it up.
When you're a conspiracy, and I consider myself a conspiracy person, not to the same
But
degree.
I think you take them with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, but that's hard, by the way, because once you start
Yeah.
seeing the dishonesty in things, and from big organisations that we're supposed to be able to trust and things like that, it's very difficult, especially if you, like in his case, like he's seen as an anti-vaxxer. He's not actually against all vaccines, just he was against the COVID one. But his voice, the damage to his voice was caused by a vaccine. So I think that all feeds into it and then makes him seen as more of a conspiracy theorist. And that's probably why he leans into conspiracies, because when you've experienced and seen the dishonesty for yourself, that then colours your view of the rest of it.
No, and I get that, but I've listened to
But it's a
little.
wild choice.
I've
I
listened to
sorta
little
like it.
snippets of him on a few
But
different
he's also
issues.
fundamentally against the amount of control and sway that the pharmaceutical companies have, which I think
Was a
could be
good thing.
transformational for America.
What I will say though is that a lot of people on the right have been very, very upset this last couple of weeks about the repealing of the Obamacare,
Yeah,
because they didn't realise that the medical aid care plan, the Mediaid or whatever it's called,
was
the Obamacare. So they were all for getting rid of Obamacare.
because it had his name on it.
And there was it was a real mix for me, and this is I'm being very vulnerable and open with you here.
Please do.
Okay. It's not going to show me in the nicest light, this.
Well, look, I just backed RFK Jr., so we're allowed to go out on limbs, mate.
So I watched a little bit of a clip from Fox News
Okay.
with a Trump MAGA fan. And it was for me, equal measures heartbreaking and funny almost, in a sense of like, I don't want to see anyone suffering and I don't want to see anyone going through it, but at the same time it's like, you are thick enough to have voted for this, and like the fact that these people didn't know that that's what they were voting for, it baffles me, because I can't always get my head around the fact that some people are that, like, people having different levels of
But being that
knowledge,
level of uninformed-
education, but being that level of uninformed, it
Yeah.
genuinely baffles me a little bit. It's like, how could you have possibly... So basically he was saying that his mum, who's like stage 4, I can't remember what type of cancer she had, but she's receiving various treatments. The only way she can afford it
It's
is through the Medicare Act.
Yeah,
And he's just found out that
it's all going.
that is going. So he's basically been told by the hospital and the nurses and the doctors that they need to make plans, either for a payment plan or to switch her
To a public.
care to basically, like, she can't afford it. So it'd be basically looking at like really cheap palliative care rather than medical. And it was like genuinely heartbreaking. This dude was absolutely torn to pieces. And he was like, I had no idea. And it's like, but again, there's that little bit of me that's like, but how did you not know? How did you not, especially given that this isn't for this particular voter. This isn't a potential.
The problem is,
no, but this isn't a potential thing. This isn't, the Medicare Act might affect me one day in the future. It's right now.
Promise.
It's key to your mum's well-being, to her chances of any kind of comfort in life. So it's very key to your day-to-day life right now. How could you have not known that that's what you were voting against?
I think the simple answer is tribalism, isn't it? I think, and we see it here. It's everywhere now. It's on the internet. It's like all of the stuff I heard about the American election was the basics of like, it was left versus right. At least that's the way it was being put across. It was, it's a choice between Kamala and Trump, and there's not a lot of time actually spent on discussing the issues that are actually going to be affected. Like, I doubt there was a news program in America that went, this is what's likely to happen if Kamala gets in, this is what's likely to happen if Trump gets in. Like, it's all sound bites, it's all bullshit, it's all personality politics, isn't it? And I think that's why people like that poor bloke get swept up into it, and I think they focus far too much on the catchphrases like "Make America Great Again," and they buy into that without actually engaging with what that will look like and what that means. And we've seen it in this country with Brexit and things like that.
Who people still don't want to admit.
Yeah, and you just people get caught up in.
Also, it's very funny, by the way, to me, that the people who have been signing and pushing for this petition and trying to make a big noise out of this petition to get Keir Starmer to call a general election are predominantly Brexiteers who have spent the last 8 years telling us we lost, get over it.
Oh, mate. Oh, honestly.
And it's like, really? And then if they turn around and they go, yeah, but this is like actively damaging the country. You're like, yeah, no shit. No shit.
Brexit, dickhead.
Like, it baffles me. Anyway, that had like 6 million votes.
And that's sort of the problem, though. That level of madness, that you can have this as a situation that in this country, we voted for Brexit, millions of people wanted us to vote about it again, we were told to fuck off and get over it, and they were lubing themselves up with Remainer tears or whatever, and then to now be in a situation where an even smaller amount of people, and like it's a questionable number on top of that, are asking for another general election, to then the same people that said those things to now be saying, oh, come on, it's the will of the people. How are you meant to make sense of that? Do you know what I mean? Even if you're a sensible person like me and you, I don't understand that. I don't understand how that's happening, why that's happening, how people aren't fucking in raptures about it, how those people aren't being raped over coals. Not raped over coals.
Mama like that. Mama like that.
As soon as I said, I was like, oh, no, wrong word. But yeah, like, so then how do we then also expect people like that bloke who's partly responsible for what will be his mum's death for not being informed when that's the level of logic we're working with? It is nonsensical. Yeah,
you and I have always said politically, since we've become politically engaged as adults, we've always said that it's dangerous to vote for a team. You've got to vote. You've almost got to vote policy by policy, and ultimately, if the other side are backing a policy that you agree with, you wouldn't look at them and go, well, yeah, but on that specific policy, you would back them.
Yeah. Well, like, look, I wanted Labour in power because I wanted the Conservatives out, but I didn't vote Labour.
No, I don't.
You know what I mean?
I don't agree with. I agree even less with the Conservatives.
Yeah, 100%. But for my local area, I was I think it would be better if we have this guy in.
I think people can go back and listen to any one of the recent episodes of the podcast for the last year or two before the general election and see that we've been very vocally critical of Keir Starmer and Labour.
Yeah, I think I've been progressively more critical. I just wanted to believe it was going to be different.
You wanted to be hopeful.
Do you know what I mean? And I think I said every time.
Things are going to be different in terms of, look, there's so much wrong with it, and you and I both know. I'm not going to go into it. We've covered it in many episodes, but they are doing far more to address the economy and the issues of the economy than the Conservatives did. And I
still don't agree with how they're going about it.
No, and is that going to be more damaging to me and you in the short term?
Yeah.
Yes. But ultimately, they are looking at.
I hope so. You
know, when you think about what they did inherit.
Yeah. what really bugs me about the situation, though, and it's not, this is because what I'm getting fed up with is how highly they're being held to account, which is a weird thing to say because that's all we wanted with. But
you compared to the last lot,
and I'm like, how that works, because I see that and I go, oh, it's quite clear that the established media are still
right wing. I was going to say, yeah,
and so they're vehemently against what the government's doing, whereas the Conservatives were doing all manners of madness, corruption, and
Boris was trying his best.
I didn't realise this. When the Conservatives took over, the national debt was 900 billion, which is an absurd number, by the way. Do you know what it is now?
It's in the trillions, isn't it?
2.6 trillion.
Yeah.
But yet they're the financially responsible party.
Also, they're the ones that the party that
it did spike at COVID.
Yeah.
But most of that money went to their mates.
Yeah, and also they talk about being the party of lower taxes and whatever. Taxes were at an all-time high under the Conservatives.
Absolutely. Even one of the things, I can't remember what it was, that Badenoch threw at Keir Starmer at PMQs this week.
Oh, she got humiliated
was the person
again.
that introduced it.
Humiliated again.
I think he's fucking up. He's not answering the questions, though. He's just being righteous, and I think that's going to wear thin. I think people are going to start preferring
but
her.
she is honestly not doing well.
But she's exactly what they want. She's someone who stands there and talks absolute waffle, ignores her part in any of the things she's throwing out there, to the point she's happy to say.
Oh, it was the cars. It was the petrol cars and the electric vehicals.
Like, but you're the one who introduced.
She was like, you were. Not only was it your party, you were the business secretary.
It was you. But yeah, so again, that's the world we're living in, when the person who introduced something can criticise it being introduced.
But Boris did it in London, didn't he?
Oh, what, with ULEZ? Yeah, he introduced ULEZ and then
he ran the entire campaign against ULEZ.
Yeah.
But it was his, and not only was it his policy, but under his tenure, under his leadership, boroughs were only being given certain budgeting if they introduced it.
Yeah.
So they were almost being held to ransom to introduce ULEZ.
Well, because he needed to be able to show he succeeded at something. And then when he saw it wasn't popular, it's fucking awful. Face. But the thing is, people
it's baffling.
They fall for it. Or at the very least, they're not informed enough to know. Because I didn't know that until Khan, I thought, was going to lose the Mayor of London election because of it. And it's not even his policy. And he has no choice over whether he rolls it out or not, really. He has to. So yeah, but again, that's the world we're living in. That's the logic we're working with. It just doesn't matter anymore what the actual truth is. It's just what people are willing to believe. Because the problem is, otherwise, the conversation we all need to be having is look, guys, genuinely, everything's fucked. We should all be shit fucking scared. The future is really, really bleak. We need to do something about it. What do we do? I don't know. There isn't a straightforward answer to that question.
Can I use that to jump onto a final topic then?
Please do.
Another one.
I think I've been relatively restrained with this thing.
No, you've done well.
I think I've wheeled it in.
Look, honestly, what's the point in having a soundboard if you don't use the buttons?
You know what? Couldn't agree more. And I didn't have anything. I went the wrong way.
I've been really trying, baby.
I went the wrong way. That's what I wanted.
Nice.
I felt like you lawyered it. But anyway, you know what? I fucked up.
You've got in your own head. What was the subject, Jake?
The world's fucked up.
Yeah.
The world's bleak. We've just had Storm Bert, which has done an absolute fucking number on the country.
Yeah, even our local area.
People have died in flooding.
Yeah.
It's been genuinely horrendous. And there are people in prison serving prison time.
Yeah.
At a time when prisons were overcrowded, for planning a protest to try and warn us all about these incoming disasters and the fact that these disasters will be a regular occurrence if we don't change course. Meanwhile, at the weekend, I think it was this weekend, it might have been last weekend, all the farmers came out in protest, blocking the roads and the like. So I imagine there'll be plenty of arrests to grab them. I imagine there were lots of stories of people getting out of their cars and pulling farmers out of their tractors and moving them out of the road.
They weren't blocking motorways,
right?
though, to be fair.
No, but, you know.
Yeah.
Is it a bit double standard? Is it because for some reason the media have spun it so that we're on board with the farmers but we're not with the climate?
the thing is, I think like optics is a part of it as well. I think like with the farmers, they're like they're seen as the salt of the earth. You know, these are just hard-working people, and a lot of them are, by the way.
Yeah, it's the faces of it who aren't.
Yeah. Whereas like the faces of like Just Stop Oil and these sort of people are like goths and like quite eclectic looking. Like they're a huge range of people.
Middle class, they're
yeah. So like I think that
rich
plays
kids
a part in it as well. I think it's like these self-absorbed.
Who add nothing to society, but
yeah,
the farmers are providing us.
They're stopping me getting to fucking work or to my mum at the hospital. Do you know what I mean? Like that's whereas these farmers is like they're taking away their money. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all optics. I think that's, and then yeah, you've got knobheads like Jeremy Clarkson who literally said he bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax.
Classic BBC.
Classic
Do you know
BBC.
what? Can we get that as a soundbite for a future week?
BBC.
Classic BBC.
Yeah.
And Victoria Derbyshire
But
stand.
again, that's the
she
logic
lets him
we're
say it,
working
and then she just goes, "But you literally said it in an interview
yeah.
in The Independent in 2000 or whatever it was."
And
the
he
Times
actually
or
looks like
something.
he wants to headbutt her. Do you know what I mean? When she says, he's like,
I mean, he's got history. He's got priors.
that's the point, isn't it?
But look, him, James Dyson has been quite
Andrew
vocal
Lloyd
about
Webber.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. Andrew Lloyd Webber, by the way, and I found this out because obviously you get all the
I think I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
what flew back from New York to vote against giving children in poverty
Free school meals.
free school meals,
Yeah.
then flew back to, but we'll come back and put the time and effort in to go, I don't think I should pay my fair share of tax. Because I know, like I said, there's got to be a cut-off. I think these things should be a rolling, I don't think there should be a hard cut-off. I think there should
Yeah.
be a rolling thing. But ultimately, I genuinely do believe, like, because when you took all the statistics and we still don't know enough data about who's going to be
Yeah.
affected.
This is the problem, right? And this is whether it's Brexit, an election, whatever, or like even global warming, right? I believe in global warming, but I've also heard enough stuff that makes me sit there and doubt it. And therein lies, there's so much information out there that I still don't 100% know how many farmers are fucking affected by it. Do you know what I mean?
But what one thing that is massively skewed is that when you talk about the average land,
Yeah.
the average size of a farm in the UK, and it's like that is not even close to what most people own, because the statistics are skewed by people like Clarkson, by people like Lloyd Webber, who
Yeah.
all flooded the market by buying all these farms to avoid inheritance tax. And obviously on top of that, then you've got not just the people that have bought the farms, but the companies that own all the farms, the massive corporations that own huge swathes of farmland. So they're all massively skewing the statistics. So actually, I still believe that most salt of the earth, some people absolutely get fucked by this.
If they're single, they're fucked, basically.
But I genuinely believe that most salt of the earth farming people will not be affected.
But they would
by
disagree
this
with you. And
inheritance
therein
tax.
lies the problem, doesn't it? Because, like, so which side is... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because you'd like to think a farmer would actually know whether they're going to be affected by it or not. But I don't know whether they do.
No, but how many people... There's you know, when we look at the fuel, the winter fuel payment cuts...
Yeah.
A lot of people that are getting the fuel payment cut, taken away from them, didn't even know they were eligible for it.
No.
And again, like, a lot of people got fucked by that,
Yeah.
big time. And I think we're both against it.
Oh, totally. Totally.
But there were a lot of people that didn't even know they were, like, qualifying for it. And again, I think the problem is a lot of the times these people will get annoyed at something and think it affects them when it won't. It's like, do you remember when... Okay, it's like, I know it's a bit of an extreme example, but do you remember on Question Time when that bloke came in and started going off against Corbyn's top 5%, like anyone in the top 5% bracket will have an extra tax. We're going to tax more.
Right, okay.
And he was like, but I'm not in the top 5%. And he was like, I just earn, a humble £90,000 or whatever it was. And, and the whole audience was like, no, mate. I thought everyone thinking genuinely, even I was like, well, he's going to say 67. No, like he was like 85, 90,000 pounds or whatever. And they were like, and Fiona Bruce, who I'm not the biggest fan of on Question Time, but even she was like, no, but you are the top 5%. And he's like, no, there are people who, there's all these people that earn more than me. And you're like,
the thing is, it's the disparity in that 5% that pisses him off, isn't it? It's the fact that he's in that 5% with
someone who's only 4
Amazon,
million, 5
do you know
million,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like he's in that tax bracket.
And that's why I always think these things should be a rolling.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bit like that sometimes, and I think we're so since Brexit, and I do believe it's since Brexit, I really, really do, we've been so conditioned that we must react to things. And obviously, if you're a farmer, you're obviously not going to come down on the side of the government on this.
Yeah.
So completely fair.
I think this is where I don't know what control you can have. There's no way you can actually control the press for it to be a free press. But I also don't think it should be allowed to be owned by one individual. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's about 5 people that own 90% of the British press.
Exactly, and there should be a way to limit that. I don't know what that mechanism should be, but there should be something in place that protects newspapers and what were reputable sources from being misused and used for the intents and purposes of like 5 people.
And that's what you see so much.
But like the BBC doesn't do its function. Like you see all the time that they'll talk about people dying in Ukraine and they've been murdered by Russia, and people dying in Palestine were hit by an airstrike, and Israel aren't
who did the
mentioned
airstrike?
anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope we discover who killed these Palestinians.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But without those things, it's really difficult to actually inform people properly.
And also, we live in an age where misinformation is ripe. You've just mentioned the big sources that are meant to be trusted sources, the ones we turn to, as you say, and we go, well, these are the ones. But they're being manipulated by people who've got their own agendas.
Yeah.
And their agendas are very rarely going to line up with the agendas of you and I, or in the interests of you and I. And the internet is like, even petitions that I've signed in the past, in the wake of this week with that petition, it's made me think, when I look back at the petitions that I've signed that have gained a lot of interest, or even but the ones that gained, I'm like, I don't know how legitimate that is, because it's so easy to manipulate information these days. Bots are rife, and that's one of the things that we'll get into on another episode, is that's not been helped by Musk's cutting of 80% of the staff at Twitter, because suddenly it's just right with. And do you know what I had a thing on Twitter the other day that really pissed me off. There's a moment where I just shut down Twitter. I didn't go back on it for the day, and I sit there and scroll to it endlessly. I was watching a video, and it was an interview, and it was like batshit. They would just talk, and they were referencing something, and I was like, I need to know the original video they're referencing. There was a time when you could click on that post, and within the first 2 or 3 replies, there'd be a link to the original video or someone explaining it.
Yeah.
Now it's just a sea of blue ticks, all bots just trying to get in farm engagement, just posting the most inane shit that's got nothing to do with the post above. And it's like, I'm fed up. I'm not scrolling, and I got so pissed off. But it is so difficult to find the truth.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to find the truth.
What I try to do,
you can't trust it.
When something big happens, I look for as many sources as possible, and if they're all saying more or less the same thing, then you'd like to.
You can read between the lines and pick
that's roughly what's going on. But then that feeds into the problem we were talking about earlier with that bloke whose mum's going to die because she's losing her medical care. When you have to go to that level of effort to actually even be just the basic level of informed, there's no actual standard of information from any of these organisations anymore. Like the fact that BBC is concerned in any way when it's supposed to be an independent body, like independent of the government, independent of any institution, that it's worried about naming Israel as the killer of Palestinian children. We have a problem. Do you know what I mean? And that's not left or right. That's a non-actual political issue. This is just a humanitarian issue.
I think in my lifetime as well, in recent years, I think for my money, Channel 4's taken over BBC as being the most trustworthy news source in the UK.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't watch the news, so I couldn't actually.
No, I very rarely engage, but I'm more likely now to seek it out on.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it.
I am on BBC.
I hadn't really thought about it.
But it is very difficult to find the truth. And even when you think you've found the truth, because there's these, I don't know if you're aware of these Russian bots that have been basically copying legitimate websites. So they copy CNN, BBC, all these reputable places that you trust.
Yeah.
And they send you a link, and it's got the BBC website in it. So you click on it and it's BBC and it's got BBC URL and it's a BBC decorated thing and it's not the BBC, it's Russia. It's a copy page.
Wow, okay.
And I was reading into that recently and it was like, oh, that's quite worrying.
Yeah. Well, going back to, because we meant to discuss him wider and we've still got a little bit of time, Elon Musk.
Shoot.
Have you still got time or do you need to go?
No, I'm good.
Good. There's like a few things to discuss about him, really. One is the fact he's head of Doge, or joint head of Doge, which is the Department of Governmental
Efficiency.
Weirdly, he is also financially invested in the meme cryptocurrency Doge. He's been a big advocate for it for a long time.
He's also living off a lot of government subsidies. His company's doing very well. The governor of California recently, actually, after his appointment, came out and said that he actually might pull the subsidies that are going to Tesla and give them to smaller firms to...
too late
look,
for that,
they're
really,
calling
though,
it...
isn't it?
Obviously, it is what it is. It's like a fuck you, you're not getting government money, but what they're calling it is a diversification of the market, which it would be. It would be like boosting the competition, and thus, in a capitalist world, in the ideals of a capitalist world, you're pushing for better products because you open the competition.
Actually, I think it is arguable that having more options, more money going into that sector and not just to one area does encourage, what's the word?
Competition?
Not just competition, the other one.
Growth?
No, it's the one like you're inventing shit and...
Innovation?
Innovation, that's the word I was searching for. It encourages
You
innovation.
would not do well on Musk's task force.
No, I probably just wouldn't do well in governing in general. Like, I think I could be like a policy advisor, maybe, something like that. Like workshop with people ideas on how to solve a situation.
Have you seen the thing as well with Musk? The reports that, and you can see it, it's evident in all the, even in the campaign, it was evident in all the videos and the photos that Trump fucking hates him.
Yeah.
And the idea that he used him to win the election campaign by buddying up with him and screwing the algorithms and trying to push his own agenda. And now he's buddied up with him and he can't escape him. He's like trapped with Musk and it's like the worst fucking nightmare.
Well, the thing is, what do you think about the idea that he bought Twitter to influence the American election, that it has influenced the American election?
Personally, I don't think that's why he bought Twitter. I think he bought... First of all, we know he was forced to buy Twitter. That's the real reason he bought Twitter. But I think he bought
only
Twitter...
because he did put an offer in.
Yeah, I think he bought Twitter. I think that whole thing was the same reason he's done a lot of stuff in recent... I think you can see the progress of Elon Musk, in my opinion. I think he started out as... I think he genuinely had intentions about... I think he had this thing about leaving a legacy. So I think everything he did by investing in PayPal, by investing in Tesla, SpaceX, it was about leaving a legacy. It was about making an imprint on the world and building his own ego. Then I think the other side of that is that there's always been a really shy kid, not shy, but
an inferiority
like me. And I think that's why he bought Twitter, because I think he wanted to make it so. And when you look at everything he did early on in Twitter, he only really reacted by changing algorithms and changing teams and stuff like this when something went viral that was negative about him, or when his posts weren't doing very well.
Yeah.
When people were posting the same things that he were and getting more views, more likes. I think genuinely it was just about being liked. It was about being popular.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you can buy all that stuff. You can buy every person in the school. You can give them all £5 to come and say really nice things about you and tell you how much love you. But you can't buy a new fucking personality. And if your personality is shit and his personality is shit, you can't change that by just throwing money at it.
Yeah.
And then I think he's been radicalized in the past couple of years. And I do think it's only happened in the last couple of years. I think when you look back, like I said, all his stuff was all about him, me. It was about trying to be funny, and that stuff's not gone away. He's still trying to be funny, but he wasn't necessarily that politically engaged. But then at some point he just, I don't know, got completely radicalized.
Do you want to know what
Please, I would love to know what you think.
I've sat and mulled over, like, motivations and, like, why he's done the things he's done and like why he would enter Donald Trump's government. And I've got a real conspiratorial idea, right?
Love it. Hang on.
Mama like that. Mama like that.
So he has said in the past that...
Oh, hang on. So you're about to drop a conspiracy?
Yeah.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Sure.
Strap in, folks. So
Good stuff.
Anyway, sorry.
he has said in the past that he wants to colonize Mars and turn space in general industrial and have industry off of the planet. I think the reason for that is at some stage we have to leave the Earth. If you listen to Brian Cox, it could be millions of years in the future when at some stage if we're to survive as a race, we're going to have to leave our planet.
Yeah, because we'll run our natural course on it, and we're speeding that up,
If we
obviously.
don't destroy it ourselves, or if the poles don't flip, like, look into the Adam and Eve story, by the way, people. I haven't got time to explain
No, the poles
it.
are turning. Slowly turning.
40 miles a year, by the way. We don't know what that means. But just look up the Adam and Eve story, and not the story from the Bible. It's a conspiracy theory. Put Adam and Eve and conspiracy, and you should be able to find it.
Adam.
I'll see if I can find a video about it and send it to you.
Is this the one, the Pornhub link?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, wearing fig leaves.
Okay, saved.
And so I think he wants to be the guy that does that for the same reasons you were saying, legacy and leaving that behind, leaving something behind. I think it's a bit don't look up at the same time. Like, I feel like they know something's going to happen. But I think he wants to turn space residential. He's a very controversial figure. There's more and more people, I imagine, entering that space, whether it's what's his face from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, or NASA itself apparently is still operating flights, whereas I wasn't aware that they still were. I thought they were just handing it out. But the level of access he would need and like permission from government to do that, potentially. And he's closer to it now than he ever has been by successfully catching a rocket or the boosters from a rocket after a successful launch. I think he wants to industrialise space. He needs the access to do it. By getting access to government, and from what I've heard, he's looking at creating quite radical change and fundamentally changing the way their political system works by getting rid of loads of people like he has at Twitter and things like that. To have that level of access, he needs to be in some way ingratiated into that system and to have himself as embedded in that system as he can possibly be. Because Donald Trump, as things stands, in 4 years' time, will no longer be president. And we're not going to be ready to do that sort of shit in the next 4 years. So he needs a level of access and borderline control
that can't be taken back off of him.
Yeah, and this is a way in which he could do that. That's just my conspiracy idea of why he might be doing it.
But I do genuinely think...
Because he already has control and power over governments. The fact that with his satellites, he gets to pick and choose who he does and doesn't allow access to them for whatever reason he decides.
I think it's a very simple thing as well. I think it's complicated by the fact that he's got all this money and that he's got access to very influential and powerful people. But I don't think he's any different from... And this is an arbitrary name. I just want to say this to our listeners. Arbitrary name I'll put out there. I don't think he's any different from Dave down the pub. No shame to Dave. But here's what I think happens, right?
Dave.
Here's a man.
Imagine what Dave would do with $40 billion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. He'd definitely break his back trying to pick that up.
Yeah, he'd probably buy Chelsea. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, she might not be happy about that. But here's a man, flawed, quirky, but also just with these huge complexes about wanting to be liked, all this stuff. And I think when you chart his personal life, it's very simple to follow, in my opinion. Walk with me here, okay? Go with me. And I'm going to describe Dave and Elon. They're both the same. They're completely interchangeable. Dave down the pub, who you've seen on Facebook, and Elon Musk, who rather than having a Facebook account, owns a social media operator, owns Twitter, and therefore can fuck the algorithms to fit him rather than just fucking the algorithms by liking certain posts.
Yeah.
He can literally rewrite the code. Dave and Elon, they're fine. They go through life. There's always a little bit of problems because their personalities are not necessarily that likable. And it shows. So they've never always had a lot of friends. They've never been hugely popular. They've maybe, if they've been invited to parties, it's because they've got to be invited to parties, or in Elon's case, it's because you'll host the party, or maybe Dave's got a nice gaff and you want to host it because his dad's got a really nice grill, or whatever.
Yeah.
They go through life. They have relationships. They start families. It doesn't work out. And because of their personality and because of their beliefs, their children, when they reach a certain age,
don't approve of them.
Choose not to have them in their lives. They don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time with Daddy Dave.
No.
They don't want to spend a lot of time with Daddy Elon. So they move on. They've got another relationship, another child, and again, it falls apart. So here's a man who is divorced at least once, has certainly had serious relationships break up in the past, has family that doesn't like spending time with him. This is the family you've got to spend time with your family.
Yeah.
His family, you don't want to spend time with him.
No.
Don't have that many friends. So it's very easy for them to find views that suggest that it's not their fault. It's the women's fault. It's the kids' fault. It's this woke mind virus for going, and particularly with Elon, who's got a trans daughter, it's like, why doesn't my daughter speak to me? Is it because my personality is a piece of shit and she doesn't like me? No. It's because
the woke mind
it's
virus.
because she's trans. Why is she trans? Because she's woke. She let that happen. Why doesn't my wife speak to me?
Yeah.
It's because women are, this whole incel mentality. And you lock yourself into this echo chamber because you feel validated. You feel it's not your fault. It's okay.
Well, and the thing is,
then it spirals. I think that's what's happened. I think it's complicated because
we
he's got this money, but it's the
underestimate
same pattern.
The effect that amount of attention from the world can have on someone. Because, even if we were to talk about Joe Rogan, for example, in the sense of, it was only a couple of years ago, if you were to actually listen to him vehemently against Trump, quite left-wing in most of his policies, questionable views on trans stuff and stuff to disagree with, but in general, mostly left. But out of nowhere, and it's something I was really uncomfortable, and it's why I've not been listening to him as much, he's gone full Trump. And the fact he had him on the podcast, and he's become a proper fanboy, and there's clips of him mocking Trump only a couple of years ago. And I think what happens is sometimes, going back to what I was saying before about when you see the dishonesty, Joe Rogan experienced it in terms of actually against him, because during COVID, it was the whole ivermectin thing. And they were putting videos of him on TV where they discoloured his skin to make him look unwell. And they were just out and out lying about what he'd said. And the fact ivermectin was a horse tranquilizer. Yes, it was, but it'd also been used hundreds of thousands of times on human beings. I think stuff like that happens to someone, and he's the biggest podcaster in the world. He's got the biggest platform in the world. When you have that level of bullshit thrown at you, I think it's cracked his and Elon's, reality filter. Do you know what I mean? I think it completely 180 the way you look at the world.
I would say that definitely about Rogan. I don't agree with that about Musk. I genuinely do believe with Musk it's exaggerated because of his position and because of his power, and no doubt the attention he gets has
he
an
probably
effect.
gets so much negative attention, and rightly so in a lot of ways, that in himself he's not going to think he's a bad person. So when you have that many people telling you you're a bad person, I think for some reason in people's heads that just a switch goes off where they distort reality.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
I
I
mean?
see what you mean. Sorry,
So
I thought you meant they suddenly see reality.
Slightly
No,
different with Joe Rogan, but I mean in the sense of they see reality in the reverse to how they did before. In
Like
Joe
I said,
Rogan's case.
I see someone who's could easily be an uncle who I know on Facebook. I'm not saying anyone specific, by the way, but could easily be just a relative you got on Facebook who you know from around the estate, and the life that they follow, and the life that Elon's followed in his personal life, and the way these people get easily radicalised because you find those views and they validate. I personally just think that's
well, and the thing is that if the group
of
of people that are being nice to you are the MAGA group, you are, if all you're getting from everyone else is hate, you are just going to go over there, aren't you? You're going to start finding reasons to be comfortable with them. Oh, and actually, I've met Trump a couple of times. He's all right. I'm going to go full in for Trump because everyone else slags me off. And I think it is really simple. I think you're right. I think it's just a radicalisation, but I think it's cumulative. But it seems to just all of a sudden it makes someone go in a completely crazy direction.
And the danger is.
And I think we're seeing that with regular people. It's why they're able to be swept up into voting against their interests.
But the danger with Musk is that he's now in a position where he's potentially
going
to fuck the government.
Yeah.
And like, I know I said it, when you saw it online, and he responded to a tweet where someone said, and I always call them tweets, by the way.
I actually don't think it's going to work out for him. I think Trump will probably end up getting forced to get rid of him.
Well, Trump doesn't like him anyway.
Well,
so
apparently
first excuse.
know what none of the people that work for Trump like him.
But I think there was a thing where he was like, some Trump Musk fan was like, Trump got rid of like 90% of the Twitter thing, and Twitter still works fine. So now all the government officials are looking at him being like, oh my God, it's going to happen to us. And Musk responded by being like, actually, it was only 80%, but you got a point. And it was like, no, because Twitter's turned into a fucking hellscape since you got rid of 90% of the staff. The bots are running rife. There's not even a fucking human being on it. The ads, I mean, never mind the fact that you fucked all the legitimate advertisers away.
Apparently the ads are starting to come back, aren't they? They're starting to get... the
way they implement it on the site is shit.
Oh, the way it's done, and you're right.
Compared to how it used to be.
Yeah. Like, you used to be able to find valid contributions to stuff underneath, and now it's just everyone's yelling at each other, or, as you said, it's bots and it's... And
also, if you write... And I know this is like his personal gender against his own daughter, but if you write cisgender, you get marked, you get flagged.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, it's a thing. It's like, oh, this doesn't go with Twitter's...
Isn't
agreement of fair
like me or you? You identify with the
body you were born in. Yeah. But if you write that's like that gets flagged. But if you write full on Nazi propaganda, that's fine and that's rife. Again,
do people need to put do you put that in your bio?
What?
Cisgendered or?
I don't.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
Nazism is rife on that website. Also, people like. It's platforming people like Andrew Tate and things like that.
No, I don't like that. But at the same time...
No, I know the free speech thing, I know.
Not just that, but just we need to be able to mock that dickhead. Do you know what I mean? And you can't do that if he's not platformed.
Rather than community noted, on that Blue Sky, Tate did a...
I need to look at that. I keep hearing
I'm thinking about something. But Tate did a post.
But I won't leave X.
Tate did a post the other day that was on... a Twitter and on Blue Sky, whatever. Basically, it was like completely slanderous. It was like, if you took 30 seconds to research the things that he said, they're so clearly bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's like really slanderous and dangerous and supporting these views that are not very healthy towards women.
Yeah.
Twitter, there was like a community note that was like, this isn't actually. Whereas Blue Sky were like, the first time you posted something like that, they were like, hey, don't do that shit. And the second time he did it, they banned him. So whilst I agree with you, but if you're posting things that are actually encouraging...
No, I know. But
again, it's the same thing, freedom of speech and freedom of consequence. They're two different things.
Yeah, see, for me, that it shouldn't be deplatforming. There should be something within society, whether it's a law or, something in place where he then has to go... He gets punished in some way, whether that's like fucking diversity training or whatever, or woke training, however you want to... put it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
as long as he's in a position where he can still post those things, it's dangerous for people to learn from.
It is dangerous, but it's also dangerous to push those people to the margins. There's arguments for both sides, by the way. There's absolutely arguments.
But my point is, Blue Sky took actual action, whereas Twitter's just kind of like,
I don't mind the
Nazism and all that stuff.
No, I know.
No, I don't mind the community notes. It's probably the best thing.
I could go either way on it, but I'm uncomfortable with deplatforming.
But my point is, Twitter's become shit since he's got rid of 90% of the staff. And the idea that he's going to take over a government agency
it's frightening.
And get rid of 90%, and they want to see improvements.
It's going to be good for business. It's going to be good for
just
content. But I think that's a pod, mate.
Yes.
Is there a soundbite you'd like to press before we finish?
First of all, I would like to say that, I understand it's been a bit different having the soundboard, and I fumbled the soundboard a couple of times, so...
Forgive it.
Do you know what? I'm down with letting you have it. You've made me think it might be worth whoever I have on, just letting them have the soundboard in front of them.
But I think that it's only right to finish with King.
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 Send him. Sorry.
I didn't know whether you were going to go for that or not. And I was like,
I normally
do
don't.
I let it
I'll
run?
just-
I was like, do I let it run or do I jump in with it?
No,
And
look,
when I
you're
went
enjoying yourself.
when I went and
I
you
want to
went,
be the wind at your back, not the spit in your face.
when we both went together, I was actually relatively happy. What's this?
So many of you say to me, wow, you're even shorter in real life.
I don't want to end on that. So I'm just gonna...
Press 1 quickly. We need to end the pod.
Okay. I know which one I'm going for.
Nice. Jake, socials the people.
Okay. The socials, you can find us on Twitter at Swords Crossing. Please give us a follow. Please just like our tweets. It makes a huge difference. You
Don't
can
be a
find us
dickhead.
on Instagram at CrossingSwords_podcast. Again, just subscribe and then just give us a like. Scroll through. You're scrolling, you hit like, you carry on scrolling. It's no big deal.
Maybe even a comment.
It's no big. You don't need
if
to.
you got time.
Angela Bassett did the thing. You can do the thing. You just scroll
Just
and
do
like.
the thing.
We sometimes do quite well on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, you can go to at CrossingSwords_podcast. Same as it is for Instagram. That's at CrossingSwords_podcast. Again, just like a video, engage in a video, comment on it. Just a little thumbs up, thumbs down. Doesn't really matter. Smiley face. Couple of Crossing Swords. There is a Crossing Swords emoji. We actually wrote to Apple and got that included.
It's just for us.
T's and C's apply. We did not actually have anything to do with that inclusion of that particular emoji. But you can also, again, subscribe it. You can go on YouTube. So the link will be wherever you're listening to this episode. There'll be a link to YouTube
in the description.
Right there in the description. So follow that. Give the channel a follow. Go through, like the shorts, like the videos, comment on them. Again, you don't have to watch them all the way through. Just open the video. There's no ads. Click a like, comment something, anything, and then close it and move on and watch whatever you want to watch.
Even if
you know,
dickhead.
Yeah, and then just go and watch 10 surprising TV deaths that will surprise you, or 10 celebrities that you don't know are gay, and then it's got a picture of Elton John on the front. You're like, right, whatever you want to do. You crack on however you want to do it. You can also email us at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. That's 1 and 9 the numbers, Crossing Swords the word, all one thing, CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. Hit us up, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, episode ideas, topic ideas. We also run a thing called the Council of Bros, so if you want any advice, you can hit us up.
We're here for you.
And just like the old school agony aunts, we are the agony bros. We have got your back. Also, but don't write to us about stag do's, because things that happen on stag do's happen on stag do's. You just got to go with the flow.
You're absolved.
Yeah, it's fine.
Bumming, they're absolutely fine.
But
there's nothing straighter, actually.
Please engage in all of the socials.
From
it makes a big
episode.
difference. No, I love the throwback. I absolutely adore the throwback.
Thank you.
My palm hit it.
Right, guys, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.